the Mancave Show. Welcome to the Mancave Show. Welcome to the Mancave Show.
MCS, The Mancave Show, with your host, Damien Christopher.
Hey guys, I'm your man Julius DC Bryant, photographer, and you might know me as Damien Christopher on MCS The Mancave Show, also the owner and creator of Virgo City Productions. Yes, that's 3 entities I'm working with. So my guys on Instagram are checking me out, and if you guys haven't had a chance, please go to my other pages, MCS_Mancave_show, and my other page, Virgo City Prod, which is at Virgo City Prod, one word, which is short for Productions. I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to let you know who I am, who Julius DC Bryant is. And people think I'm from Washington, D.C. That's a nay. Not knocking Washington, D.C. I've partied several times back in my youth. D.C. stands for Damien Christopher. So my full name is Julius Damien Christopher Bryant. And so it's too long unless you're signing a check, because that's exactly what my name is on my ID and my birth certificate. So it's either Julius or DC, nothing else. No Bubba, no Uncle Juice, none of that. But I want to get you guys and to get to know me. People always ask, why don't I show more of myself? So I put the IGTV up. You get a chance to see more of my personality in discussing a lot of issues in regards to me being in the industry of fashion. Well, not really fashion, but model world. I'm not into fashion. If it was left up to me, I would wear basketball shorts, sweatpants, and jeans on the regular. I'm not big into shoes. If I go to industry parties, I'm wearing all black all the time. That is it. But yeah, so this is me. I'm a man of creativity, and this is what I like to do.
So, when was the first time you picked up a camera?
The first time I picked up a camera was in high school. I was a senior, and you have in high school here in New York City, you have to take art as a credit to graduate. I suck at art, big time. I know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I can't color in lines, I can't draw lines, I'm not artistic at all, I can't paint for shit. And so I didn't want to fail the class, so I asked the teacher, what could I possibly do? Because I don't want to fail the class, and the only option was a photography class. And I knew nothing about photography. I just knew I'm not going to draw, and I just thought we were just going to take a camera, shoot, and they'll do everything else. Long story short, it was a photography class. We're using film. I loved the smell of the chemicals in the darkroom. It was weird, but just taking pictures with friends, and then the anticipation of what did I capture was I was looking forward to when I'm developing and how well the shots were, and that's where that started. That was my first time. I was 16.
So, since you started photography, what led you into the industry and managing models and being a photographer? How did you get that all together?
Wow. What led me into working with models in the fashion industry was definitely not something I wanted to do. It stemmed from me shooting from recording artists when I was living in Miami, and I worked with a couple of artists who had family members who wanted to be models. I just happened to have a connection with a lot of designers and coordinators of Miami Fashion Week. I got hit up by someone who was like, do you know somebody? And simultaneously a friend of mine was telling me that their cousin wanted to model. I got a chance to meet their cousin. They were marketable, they were tall. It was a male, he was 17 years old in high school. And I did a test shoot for him. And what I did was I invited one of the representatives from Miami Fashion Week to come to the shoot. And he booked Miami Fashion Week for 2 segments. And after the second show, he was hired for 6 other designers on there. And that's where that came about. Leaving Miami, coming to New York, I didn't want to do anything in the music industry and leave music alone. So I decided to just take the camera, open up a Model Mayhem profile. We all made that mistake, and that's where it came from. I knew my work was shitty. I'm not gonna lie. I was shooting with a Canon, not a Canon, a Nikon something I got for $200 off of Craigslist. my lighting was horrible, but apparently the naivete people were like, "Oh, I like your work," and I wasn't charging anybody. So I'm a true individual. I wasn't going to try to be a guy with a camera. DWC was what I usually call guy or girl with a camera. I was just trying to do for the artistry and to perfect my craft. And then when I was comparing what I was doing to other photographers, I was like, oh, my shit is shit. So I don't know why I'm shooting the people and what they saw in it. So when I asked a lot of the models I was shooting, I was like, what is it about my work that you like that's, I mean, compared to other photographers that are on the same profile? And they were like, there's something about your work that brings out the natural in it. So what I ended up doing was I spoke to a friend that I wanted to upgrade my camera, and she bought me the Canon T3i. It upgraded, and when I upgraded, the quality of the photography was better, but then my lighting was different. And ironically, I was hired to shoot an independent record label's staff and their artists. They hired me to go to a studio. They rented a studio out. It was called Space for Shoots here in the city. And all I had to do was bring my camera because they had the equipment with the lighting. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I was working with shitty lighting equipment. So I'm going to a real studio with real equipment. And I like to be early. So I got to the studio about 45 minutes, an hour to 45 minutes early. And I called a photographer who's now, we're good friends. I'll keep him anonymous right now. And I called him up, and he did spend 45 minutes on the phone with me, guiding me through what the name of the equipment was, what am I going to use. He was like, find inanimate objects. What kind of background do you want to use? It was going to be white, black, pink, green. I said, I'm going to stick with gray because it was more neutral. He was like, great subject. He says, what are the races and the colors of the people you're shooting? I said, between Caucasoid, Latino, and black. He helped me with the lighting and the posing of the stands of where I should keep the lighting at. And I used the same stations for everybody. It worked out well. The payment came through. They were completely pleased, and it just evolved from there. And after doing that, I definitely knew I had to sacrifice rent and invest in lighting equipment. And then from there, it just evolved. The other question you asked regarding to working with models, what it was when I work with people, I like to talk on my photo shoot, so I ask a lot of questions. Why do you want to model? What's breaking you into this industry? What are your interests in? What do you know about this industry? And me coming from the music industry, you know a lot about the entertainment industry. So apparently a lot of these models did not know what they were doing. They were like, I'm tall, I'm skinny, I have long hair, that's for the women. The guys were more or less, I got a great body. That's what all I kept saying. And I'm just like, but you know nothing about modeling. So I found myself, depending on the energy of the individual, I found myself educating them what to look out for and then developing them. One of the models I ended up shooting, who's currently a top Nike model right now, asked me why don't I start an agency. I knew nothing about agencies, but I knew people in agencies. So I contacted associates who I knew from my interim in the entertainment industry between IMG, Wilhelmina, Major Models, Q Models, Next, so forth and so on. And out of all the conversations, everyone kept saying this one tagline that stuck with it. It's a supply and demand. Find a lane, find the model that fits that lane, and that's what you do. And that's what made me start my boutique modeling agency called Damien Christopher Modeling Agency. And I made sure that the demographic I wanted to keep it was pushing models of color, because there's too many atrocities that goes on in the entertainment industry, especially with people of color. And I want to make sure that if I'm going to work with them and develop them, that they needed to be educated before they got into a world that they thought was all glitz and glam.
So, I know you have the Mancave Show, and that started in New York City, correct?
Right.
But you have a past in Florida that a lot of New Yorkers are not familiar with, and I want you to touch base on that.
All right. So, living in Florida. Prior to the Mancave Show, I did have a show in Florida for 2 years, 4 seasons. It was called JDB Live on Crib TV with the KRIB. We filmed it at the Sony Music Studios on Lincoln Road in Miami, off of South Beach, and it's streamed live on the internet. Of course, we promoted everything through MySpace. Do you tell how old that was? And I was offered the show because I was a guest host for someone else, and apparently the producer liked my delivery and offered me a show. Because of my connections in the entertainment industry with the record labels I was working with, it was easier to get guests on. So I had New York's top DJ, what's his name, DJ Create. He was one of my first DJs. DJ Young C from Shadyville DJs was one of my other DJs. DJ Slick, who DJs for Trina, he was one of my other DJs. DJ Epps, who's on Power 105, and then one of my other DJs. I was able to get a lot of artists together, unsigned, to perform on the same show as an artist they were a huge fan of. Let's say I had someone who's a fan of Flow Riders, so I would get that artist to come through, break a single, and I would not tell the unsigned artists who they were performing with. And I made it I like the surprise that was more natural. I would also do something different on the other shows that they were doing. They had this one demographic, they stuck with it. They smoked on the show, they drank on the show, and I was all about making sure that the exposure was a wide demographic. And we ended up getting sponsored by Red Bull, BET, Paramount, and the numbers, which I did not know or care for, within 3 months of my show, my producer calls me up and goes, "You have the #1 show on the channel going on, a month." And I had 1.5 million viewers each and every week for 4 seasons. And that's where that started. I didn't want to do the Mancave Show, which was my thing. I didn't want to do any more being in front of the camera. I like being behind the scenes. And I met a couple of guys that was working at Radio Shack. We got into this whole nerdy conversation in regards to TV shows and movies. They talked about, they had a blog. I saw it. It was about comic books. I was like, let me be a guest on it. And from there, we became really close associates and building up a friendship. They were like, well, we should start our own show. And I literally bullshitted for 4 months straight. I was like, oh, it's Halloween. We'll wait for the kids to go down. Thanksgiving, I might go away traveling. Christmas time, and then New Year's, I was like, we'll wait after the holidays. And I'll never forget, January 17th, it was a Sunday. They rang my doorbell. They had their equipment. They were like, we're not going to wait anymore. We're going to get this out the way, just make it raw and natural. We're just going to talk. So I had the futon, paper backdrop, wooden apple box sitting on 2 15-pound dumbbells, and we had 6 cans of Limerita set up on there. And if you guys want to see the show, it's actually on YouTube. MCS Mancave Show, Season 1, Episode 1. And you'll see the entire first season and how it transitioned. Where I'm at now with the new MCS Mancave Show, it's me, myself only. Well, not really only, because I have 2 crew members from SR Productions, Chester and Jack. We're on Corona, so they're away. And it was something that, with taking a year and a half off from 2018 to 2019, outside of fracturing my ankle and just taking a huge break, friends kept asking me, you should do it again, you should do it again, you should do it again, you're really good at it. I got offered from a major TV network, not realizing they were watching and paying attention, and they gave me a pretty good offer, and I decided not to because I was losing creative control. So I enjoy doing the Mancave Show. I appreciate people that's been tuning in. And we're going on 4 seasons now, and it's a new season for just me. But everybody that's on the show that comes in as a guest, they're not just a guest, you are the guest host, because it's the entire show of us on conversing.
Okay. So, you have the Mancave Show, and you had a show prior to the Mancave Show. But I'm in the midst of hearing that you have other ventures other than the Mancave Show. And did I hear that someone is taking a back seat from the Mancave Show?
Well, okay, so with that being said, the other ventures that I'm working with I started Virgo Productions, and so outside of what I'm doing with that is I'm producing a show called Toke with Tokes. It's a smoking show regarding marijuana, the education of marijuana, the pros and cons of marijuana, and of course there's smoking on it. I've made a guest appearance on it, and what led to that was the host and I were hanging out. He did a presentation for someone, and from there I was like, oh, you got to do a show, because their personality is outstanding. They started their career as a model, and I like that. And then with my show, the Mancave Show, I'm getting into more of the producing and being behind the scenes, and I'm loving every second of that. And what I would like to do is swap out from time to time to let other people host. I want to keep the brand, I want to keep the show going, but I want to give a platform to other people who have voices. It could be the LGBTQ community in the black community. It could be Christians who want to have a platform. It can be writers, singers, songwriters, recording artists, authors, so and so and so forth. Creative people can have the platform to be on the Man Cave Show and be like, hey, I'm hosting the Man Cave Show. Have their friends come check out the channel. It'll be recorded, it'll be posted up, and it brings more people into the channel and give it diversity so that it'll be switching. I just want to take a break from it. And the other venture is I'm going into screenwriting. So my first short film I'm going to be doing within a couple of weeks. And it's called The Date, something I've worked on for a while. So I'm pretty excited about that.
So you have a lot going on here, I see. What is this thing that I'm hearing about screenwriting? Is it one film or two film or three films? Or are we going to have to wait for that?
Screenwriting, right now I have 3 projects, 2 shorts, and I've been working on the synopsis of a full length, which is, I won't say because it's going to be on YouTube, but it's a full length. And it's inspired by a story that was done in the 70s. And apparently I did my research that no one has tapped into it. So I beat people to the punch. I wrote the synopsis, I got a copy written, it's protected, but the first thing I want to do is I want to step out of being a photographer like one of my favorite photographers, David LaChapelle, who did the movie Rise, and get into directing, because my first directorial debut was Dominique Bones-Lark's commercial. It's called Breaking Chains for his fashion show. I did a small music video at Bravo Studios. But I have to listen to other people, so I want to do it for this. So listen, I'm your guy, Julius D.C. Bryant, photographer. I am Damien Christopher on the MCS Man Cave Show. I am DC, or whatever you want to call me, from Virgo City Productions. So this is me. I am the man. I am the creative. I thank you guys for supporting all the ventures. Thank you for supporting everybody I've been working with. And I'm completely blessed to have this vehicle. So now, you know me, I hope. And I hope that I let you know how I got started. Thank you.